Welcome everyone to tutorial 4, creating forms and reports. This week, as we're working through this, you'll see that our objectives, we have 2 sessions that we're going to complete for this tutorial. And the objectives for our first session is going to be, we're going to create a form using the form wizard, which we've done in the past. We're going to apply a theme to a form, add a picture to a form, change the color of text on a form, find and maintain the data using the form. We're going to preview and print selected form records, even though we're not really going to need to print anything this week. And then we're going to create a form with a main form and a subform. And that's for the first half. The second half, session 4.2, create a report using the report wizard. We're going to apply a theme. We're going to change the alignment of field values, move and resize some of the fields. We're going to insert a picture into a report, change the colors of text again, and we're going to apply some conditional formatting. And once again, the last step would be to preview and print report, which once again you can print on your own if you'd like, but that's not necessary for the course. Let's get started with our case and continuing on to our Chatham database for our customer, and we'll complete that section through this tutorial. As you saw on Blackboard, I've posted the Chatham tutorial from the end of session 3 so that we can continue to build on to a correct database, so that you're not having to, hopefully you're going back and fixing your mistakes that I've reported to you, but this way you're starting out fresh and you're not waiting for the previous week's database to be created or graded. So thank you for your patience on that, and hopefully having this video will help you guys. Alright, as you can see, our first part that we're going to do here for our Chatham tutorial is to open the Chatham database and start the form wizard. Here are the steps we're going to be completing. Start access and open the Chatham database, open the navigation pane. We're going to, in the tables section of the navigation pane, we're going to open up the patient table. And then we're going to the Create tab, Forms group. We're going to use the Form Wizard button. So now we'll complete those steps. As you can see, I have my Chatham database open, and our navigation pane is already open, as we can see all the elements of our database, or objects if you care to use that term. As per our instructions, I will click the patient table as instructed. We have that selected now. Now in the ribbon, we're going to go to the Create tab. Once we have the Create tab, we're going to go to the Forms group. Now that we have our Forms group selected, we are going to click the Form Wizard button right up here. We'll go ahead and select that. And now we have our Form Wizard window pop up there. Now we've already had the Form Wizard dialog box before, but before you move on, go ahead and take a good look at it and get a good feel for the Form Wizard dialog box. Now as you notice, because we selected the patient table in our navigation pane, that table is selected in our Tables and Queries box due to that selection prior to opening the wizard. Now if we go back to our bookshelf book here, we will go on to our next steps. In working, well, I'm going to have to log back in. There we go. Now we can see that our next steps are to create the form using the Form Wizard now that we have the Form Wizard dialog box open. So we'll go through these next 3 steps to add some information, start getting our form set up. Now that you've read those, we're going to switch back over to our Chatham database. There we go, now that's open. Okay, our first step is to click the Add All button to move all the fields to the Selected Fields box. Now we've completed that. Even though we just add them all, our next step is to remove the phone field. So we're going to select the phone field, and then we want to select this button to move that field only back into our available fields selection. There we go. Now we've completed that for the phone field. Now the next task we have is to take our phone field, bring it back over into our selected fields, but we're going to move it to the end. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to select the last known field that we can see, which is the email field. Now that that one's selected, we still have our phone field selected. Now we can add that back, and you see that it's moved below our selected field that we had in the selected area. Now that we have all of our fields selected and in the order we want them, we're going to go ahead and select the next button to move to our next dialog box. And now you can see we have our layout section of our Form Wizard dialog box. And before we select our column or layout, you can go ahead and just click on these buttons and then look at your little image here just to see the changes it would make based on which layout you would choose. But for this tutorial, we are going to select the columnar option so that it is in this type of columns before moving on. So let's go ahead and click the next button. Now we are at our next Form Wizard dialog box. Instead of naming our form patient, the text wants us to name our form to patient data. So we just go up here into this dialog box, go to the end of patient, type in the word data. There we have it. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and click finish to create our form. Alright, now our completed form is displayed in the form view. And there are all the fields we selected. You notice that phone is on the bottom, just as we expected. Next objective we're going to complete is we're going to apply a theme to our patient data form that we just created. So we're going to go ahead and make sure to switch back to our database and follow the simple instructions we've been given. So you might want to have two windows open as you're switching back and forth between, if you have that ability to have two different screens, that makes it even easier. But we're going to be switching back and forth between the database and our tutorial book as we go through the tutorial to get it completed. And I know it may get confusing at times since we're using the digital book and not an actual hard book, but I'll try to keep it in sync as much as I can. Let's go ahead and switch back to the database now. Alright, one of the last steps we were supposed to perform in the previous section was to close the navigation pane, so I'll go ahead and close that now. So we've made sure that we're on the Home tab that it's displayed, and now we're going to go to the Views group and click the Views button, as you can see there. And the form is currently in the Layout view. So let's go ahead and go to our next step. Okay, when I clicked on the View button, you'll notice that the Field List property sheet opened up. So let's go ahead and close that before we continue. Now if you notice, we have three different tabs up here. Click on the Design tab, make sure that's active. There we go, now that's closed. Let's go to the Themes group and click on Themes. And now we see the galleries opened up to allow us to see what all available themes are available. You'll see as you hover over a theme that a name for that theme pops up. And you can see some minor changes in the background as one of those is selected. And the one we want is the Slice theme. There we go, there's the slice. We're going to right click on that. And we are going to select on the shortcut menu to apply theme to this object only. go ahead and click that. Now we've successfully applied a theme to our form. Now we're going to move on. The next thing we're going to do is to add a picture to the form. And here's where we're at in the text. To add a picture to the form, we've just got a few steps on this page that we're going to follow and the next. And these figures that are included are always really good as reference material as you're working through the tutorials so that you know what you've done has been applied correctly. So let's go ahead and go back to our database and we will go ahead and add our picture. For completing this segment, we will need to access our student data files we downloaded from the publisher. And the file we're looking for is in the Access 1 folder, tutorial folder, and then we're going to be selecting this bitmap called medical. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that into where I've got my database saved so that it's there and ready. On a side note, I want you guys to notice that I do have that bitmap placed on our tutorial section of Blackboard for this week. So we've confirmed that we still have our design tab opened up. We are going to go to the header footer group and click on logo. I'm going to navigate to where I put that file, and there is our image. Hit OK. And you can see that it landed on our title here, and we're going to go ahead and move that. One of the first things we're going to do is we're going to right click on the selected picture, because you can see it's got the orange box around it. Then we're going to select from this pop-up window here. We're going to select layout. We're going to go to this option here, remove layout. Click that. Now it is removed from the control layout. Now we can move the picture to the right of the form. So you can just move it all around now. So let's move it to where we're about a ½ inch to the right of the form's title. Then we're going to release it. I've done a good job of aligning it, but that's probably not too bad. Now we're going to just click, and now that is no longer the active element that we're working with here in our database. Now let's move on to the next section, which is going to be changing the form's title, text, and color. As we're looking at our text, we have probably about 11 steps we got to complete for this. Yeah, so we're going to do all those steps here to change that title's text and color. And then finally, when we get to the end of this point, we're going to save our database. So first, let's click the patient data form title, and we'll know that that is active because we'll see the orange box move there. Then we're going to click between the letters T and the capital D for our insertion point to be active. I'm going to press the space bar to add a little bit of space between them. And you can see that by doing so, we've moved data onto a second line. Now we can fix that by just resizing our box. Let's just pull that a little bit. And now we have it all in one line again. All right, let's click in our main form here to deselect that. We'll click back on up in here to reselect everything. And we're going to go, we're going to go to the Format tab. We're going to go to our font group, and we are going to click the font color button arrow. Now you see the gallery of available colors we have to select from. a whole plethora of them here. You can experiment with these colors here in the palette just by selecting them and seeing how they apply. You can always go up here and hit the undo to take it back to where it was. And the one that we want to select is in the 4th row, black, text 1, lighter 25% color box. So let's go ahead and click that, see how that gets applied. And we're going to click in a blank area again to deselect the title text. Now let's go ahead and save using the Save button in the Quick Access toolbar. And all the changes we've made have now been saved permanently and overwritten anything we had previously. Last thing we need to do is switch to our form view. And as you know, we can go down here to the bottom right section of the status bar and just click on the form view. And now we are back in our form view. We're ready to move on to our second part, which is our next part, which is to navigate the patient data form. If you're following along in the text here, we are now to the section to navigate the patient data form. We have this page and then another page of steps that we're going to follow. We'll go ahead and switch back to our database and get started on those steps. Right now that we're back to our patient data form, we have the patient ID field as our active field. We're going to press the tab key twice to make our first name field our active field. Press end key to move to the phoned field. That way we don't have to keep pressing tab, we can just hit the end button. As you can see, we are on record 1 of 51. So while we're here, if we want to, we can just use the shortcut Control End. You've got to make sure that that whole block there has been selected. So let's press Control End, and that'll take us to record 51. Hit Control Home, we can go all the way back. Control N takes us all the way to the last record. As always, we can use our navigational buttons to go to the previous record. And now we're on record 50. We can use our arrow keys. As you see, if we press it twice, we are now in the zip field value box in record 50. While you're inside a field value box, you can also navigate in those as well. If we go to the address one, put our cursor there, we can use the home button to go to the beginning of the field and the end button to move to the end. So if you need to make some editing changes, those are just quicker ways to navigate. And finishing up the steps here, we want to get to record 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to our first record by selecting the navigational button, go to the beginning. Now we want to go one, we know we're in record 1, we're going to go to record 2, so we're going to click next record button, and now we're at record 2. Now to conclude those steps, now we're going to move on to finding record using the patient data form. So now that we're going to go ahead and find a record, we're going to go up into the Find group. Then we're going to click on the Find button, and now we have that Find and Replace dialog box pop up. And what we're going to type in our search criteria is going to be Bunnell, B-U-N-N-E-L-L. Capitalization is not needed here. It will find all of the characters that match what we've typed. Let's go ahead and click Find Next. It said nothing was found. Since nothing was found, we're going to change our criteria a little bit. We're going to look in, for matching, we are going to select any part of the field rather than the whole field exactly matching. Any part of the field, hit find next, and now you can see we have a result. That is the only instance, as Microsoft Access was unable to locate any others with that search criteria. We can go ahead and close that. Next, we're going to get some more practice with finding, and we're going to use the wildcard character. Now, the wildcard character is just a placeholder you can use when you know only part of a value, or when you want to start or end with a specific character or match a certain pattern. So now we're going to go through the steps to use a little practice here with the wildcard character. And the wildcard character is marked as an asterisk. Let's go through the same steps to bring up our find search box here. For the find group, the find button. Now we'll put in our search criteria. Let's make sure all bundle is selected. You can either use that clicking, or you can just click and drag to select that. Instead of bundle, we are going to type in 860-226, and then put our star or asterisk there. On our match arrow, let us change that back to whole field and select find next. We didn't turn up any records. And the reason we didn't have any results turn up is because the criteria we're using is for the phone field. So let's go ahead and make that an active field. Now let's go back to our find and replace. Not making changes. Let's go ahead and hit find next. And now we see that we're moving around in our form. If you continue to keep clicking on the find next button, you'll see we just go from record to record to record. Once we go back to 46, we know that we've seen all of our records, because as we went through them, we have no more to go through. We hit find next, we'll go to 5, go to record 11, go to record 23, go to record 34, 37, and then back to 46. Now that we've finished, let's hit OK, hit cancel to close the find and replace dialog box, and we'll move on to the next section, which is changing the record using the patient data form. As we move to change the record using the patient data form, we are on page AC 197 as you're following along and doing your work. Alright, now that we're back on our patient data form, we're going to go to the right of the navigation buttons, and we're going to click in the search box. We're going to type in the word Ramos, R-A-M-O-S, and you can see that as we're typing it, Access is immediately searching for any records that have the word Ramos in it. So our current entry is for Felipe Ramos on 64 Logan Court. And that is record 33. This is the record we want. We're going to update this record with some new information for the patient. Let's go to the address field. And we're going to select all the information that's currently in there, and we're going to type in the address 145 Jackson Drive. We're going to click at the beginning of the city field. We're going to remove that information. We're going to type west. Sorry, actually, let's undo that. Let's just go to the left of that. Make that or home, or you can use your mouse, whatever you want to do. And we'll type in west. Now our city has become West Hartford. Press the tab key twice for our zip code field. We're going to replace our current zip code of 06106 to 06117. Press the tab key so we come down to the email field. We're going to give them an email address of f.ramos@example.org. Now the patient's phone number has also changed, so we are going to place our insertion point at the end of the value in the phone field, as so. You can see that as our cursor is blinking at us. We're going to backspace to delete everything except the area code and the first dash. So we'll keep our 860 dash, and we're going to add 637 dash 8841. Now that patient's record is complete, and we're going to move on to adding a new record using the patient data form. So let's go ahead and click on the Home tab and the New button. So as we go up here to the Records group on our Home tab, we're going to click New. And you can see that we now have a new record because we are on 52 of 52. Now we're going to input the data into our form as it is shown in figure 4-13. Go ahead and input that data into your form using the tab key to move from field to field. Now we have all the data for our new patient, Alex Cronin, placed into our form. Now for this information to be saved, as we're in the phone field, let's go ahead and hit the tab key. And now that record has become permanent as it is record number 52 of 53. Now that we've added another record using our patient data form into information that's saved in our patient table, we're going ahead and move to the next section, which is previewing and printing selected form records. Let's go ahead and click the first record navigation button to go to our very first record. Okay, now let's go to the Backstage view by clicking on the File tab. Now that we're in the Backstage view, click on the Print option, and then click Print Preview here on the right side, and our Print Preview window now opens. And you can see that the print preview open shows the form records for the patient table. Go ahead and notice that each of the record appears in its own form, and that shading is used to distinguish one record from another. And you can use the navigation buttons here to move around, just like we have in previous parts of this tutorial. Now, to return to form view, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the close preview group up here, and we're going to click the close print preview button. Pretty straightforward. Now, if we were actually on a print, we'd go up here to the File tab to display our backstage view again. Then we'd click Print, and then we click Print again, and we would select a printer and hit OK. Of course, we can make other choices in our setup if we need to, select different printers, change properties of how things are going to print, whatever the case may be. But at that point, we're going to end that part for printing and print preview. Let's go ahead and click Cancel to click the Print dialog box. Alright guys, let's go ahead and close the patient data form. Now we have that closed, and we're going to go onto the ribbon and click the Create tab. In the Forms group, we're going to go ahead and click on the Form Wizard button again. Alright, this time we're going to go ahead and use the patient table again, so there's no need for us to drop the arrow down, but if we were going to select our table, then we could just go ahead and click the Tables and Queries arrow to be able to see the different queries and tables we've created to be able to use. But we're going to stick with the patient table for now. Next, let's go ahead and make our selections. We are going to go ahead and, in the patient ID as an available field, we're going to go ahead and select that as a selected field. And we're going to go ahead and choose the first name, last name, birth date, phone, and email fields. So you can just double click those, or you can do them one at a time using the arrow if you like. So first name, birth date, phone, and down here we're going to select email. Right, let's go ahead and include some other fields from our table that we titled Visit. So let's go ahead and select our Visit table. And from our Visit table, we're going to go ahead and make some selections here. We're going to move all the fields in the Visit table. So we're going to use our double arrow again. We're going to look at our visit.patient.id, and we're going to remove that. So we're going to select it, visit.patient.id, and we're going to remove that as a selected field. And we have all the fields we need, and let's go ahead and hit the Next button. And our Form Wizard dialog box open. And this should match what you see in the text for figure 4-15. Go ahead and compare those now. I want you guys to notice something too here in the image. These fields from the primary table are part of the main form, and then these from the visit table or the secondary form, table. This is all put into the subform here in our Form Wizard. Just want to hop back real quick and show you guys where we're at in the text. We're here on the creating a form with the main form and subform, and we've completed the steps for creating a form using the Form Wizard. This is the table figure 4-15 I wanted you to compare with. Now we're going to go on to finish creating the form. We're almost done here with the first half of tutorial 4. Alright, to finish the form, let's go ahead and click Next. Now we have our datasheet option to select, and select the next button. And we are going to name this one patient visits. So go ahead and place your cursor at the end of patient and go ahead and type visits with a capital V to keep our naming convention consistent. And in keeping that naming convention consistent, we're going to go ahead and change our subform to one word. So we're just going to remove the space between the T in visit and the S in subform. So delete that. Now we have our subform named as visit subform, and go ahead and click the finish button. And the completed form opens in our form view. Now that we have our form open, let's go ahead and look. Patient visits, that is our title of our main form, and then down here we'll see the name of our subform. And you can see how the data from each of those tables has been placed into our form in both the main form and subform. The next section here is to modify the patient visits form that we just created in layout view. We're going to go back to our database and complete these steps. Now that we're back into our database, let's go to the Home tab, the Views group, click the View button, and let's switch to the Layout view. And we're going to click Patient Visits in the blue-gray area at the top of the form. And between the letters T and V, let's go ahead and put a space in there. Now the form is named in a more clean version for our viewers to be able to see. Let's click our subform to make it active. You can notice that because of the orange box that's been placed around it. Now let's modify the shape of our subform by making it just a little bit larger. We're going to widen the subform. We're just going to go over here to the right. Now that we have our arrow change, we are going to use our left button. We're going to click, hold that. We're going to drag it approximately 2 inches to give our subform a little bit more room. Now that we've modified our subform, let's go ahead and save our work by going to the Quick Access toolbar, clicking the Save button. Alright, we've saved that now. And in the Views group on the Design tab, let's go over here and make sure that we go back to the Form view. Great. Good work on that. Now let's move to our last section here, which is to navigate to different main form and subform records per our instructions. Once again, we'll just use the navigational buttons in this section to just move around in our records. And we'll go back to our database. Per our instructions, we are going to use the navigational buttons to go to the next record. And we are going to click this 6 times to get to patient record number 7. And looking at this form, you can see where our information makes a little bit more sense. It's a little bit easier to read rather than just looking at tables. As we can see that this patient has visited 3 times. One of those times was a walk-in. It's all grouped together by patient, and it just really helps, and it makes it cleaner data to be able to look at. Now, as many of you have seen in the grading of your databases, one of the things that is a pet peeve is not applying best fit. And you can see that in our reason diagnosis field here that we don't see all the information, so we want to go ahead and apply best fit here. So we just do our double order there, double click, and now we can see all the information. Let's go ahead and go to the last record. So we'll use the last record navigation button. Hover over that there so it says last record. Go ahead and click that. And you can see that that is our Alex Cronin record that we created previously. I'll go to the previous record. Click that. We're on record 51 for D. Shaw. Let's go to the current record box here. Let's go ahead and navigate using this as well by putting in the number of the record that we want to get to. So let's just, instead of 51, let's type in 47, hit enter, and then we automatically jump to record 47 to look at that patient data. And we can also navigate in our subform as well. Now if we go ahead and hit the last record button in our subform, you see that 1679 becomes the current record in the subform. That's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and save and close our patient form. So our patient visits form is now saved. We're going to go ahead and leave this open, but that is going to conclude the first half, section 4.1, and we're going to go ahead and move into section 4.2 to complete the second half of tutorial 4.